I walked out on my husband after I started making twice his income, thinking he was just holding me back and would come crawling for me. Instead, I'm alone now, forced to watch him flourish without me. What if the person you confidently cast aside as dead weight turned out to be the one thing holding your life together? I walked away from my husband, convinced I was soaring, expecting him to crumble and beg. But his silence and his incredible transformation left me utterly broken. 3 months ago, I was on top of the world. After years of sacrificing my nights, swallowing my pride in endless meetings, and working twice as hard as any man in the room, I finally did it. I was appointed director of operations. This wasn't just a fancy new title on a business card. It was validation. A coronation. The salary that came with it? Astronomical. It suddenly placed me in a financial stratosphere I'd only ever dreamed of. For the first time in my life, I felt real power, absolute independence. It was as if every door in the world had just swung wide open for me. I came home that night floating on a cloud of pure euphoria. I expected my husband, Gabriel, to share my joy, to pop a bottle of champagne and celebrate my victory as if it were his own. And he did in his own way. He hugged me. He told me he was proud. But there was something in his eyes, a kind of resignation, almost as if my success was happening to him, not to us. During dinner, while I talked nonstop about my new plans, my team, my responsibilities, he stayed quiet, just nodding now and then. His calm felt like a bucket of cold water on my fire. That night, as I lay in bed next to him, a cold, crystal-clear idea started to form in my mind. I looked at Gabriel sleeping. He's a good man, a kind, stable man who, for 8 years of our marriage, had been my biggest supporter. He worked as a high school history teacher. A noble job, yes, but a modest one. His salary, which had once been the pillar of our family economy, now seemed insignificant next to mine. Suddenly, our whole dynamic, the one we'd built over years, felt utterly obsolete. It hit me then. Many of the decisions I'd made, the things I'd tolerated, they were all based on a need for security that simply no longer existed. I had needed a partner, a companion, but now I was the main provider, the economic powerhouse of the relationship. The balance had been broken forever. And in that stark revelation, I saw Gabriel not as my husband, but as a responsibility. A side project. A wave of clarity washed over me. I didn't need him anymore. Not in the way a woman needs a man. And if I didn't need him, what was the point of staying together? The decision to divorce wasn't impulsive. It was the result of a cold, logical calculation. For the next 2 weeks, I observed our life through this new lens, the lens of my newly acquired power. I started to notice all the little things that had previously gone unnoticed, or that I'd just accepted. The way he'd leave his clothes on the floor, assuming I'd pick them up. His lack of ambition to find a better-paying job. His quiet, unexciting hobbies like gardening or reading history books. Everything that once seemed endearing or comforting now felt like a burden. Our conversations became tense. I'd talk about market strategies, acquisitions, business trips to Singapore. He'd tell me about the difficulty of getting his students interested in the French Revolution. We were living on different planets. I felt like a race car tied to a cart. I needed to surround myself with people who vibrated on my frequency, people who understood the adrenaline of success, not the satisfaction of a steady salary and summer vacations. One night, I sat him down in the living room and told him. I didn't beat around the bush. I was as direct as I would be in a business meeting. I explained that my life had changed course, that my goals and aspirations had evolved beyond what our relationship could offer me. I told him I'd become a self-sufficient woman who no longer needed the traditional support of a husband. I told him it was time for both of us to follow our own paths, so that I could reach my full potential without restrictions. I expected tears. I expected pleas. I expected him to fight for me, to promise he'd change, to remind me of our love and the years we'd shared. Isn't that what a man who truly loves you would do? Wouldn't he hold on with tooth and nail? Instead, Gabriel remained silent for a long time, his face pale. Then he simply nodded. He said, his voice strangely devoid of emotion, "If that's what you think will make you happy, I won't oppose it." His passivity was the final insult. It was the confirmation that I was right. He didn't have that fighting spirit, that passion. His acceptance was the definitive proof that I had made the right decision. The divorce process was quick and surprisingly easy, mainly because I was incredibly generous. I didn't want anyone to say my success had made me cruel. I let him keep the car, which was in his name anyway. We split our modest savings in half, and since I was the one who left, he stayed in our rented apartment while I moved into a luxurious loft in the city center, closer to my office. It was a clean, efficient cut. A termination of contract. The first few weeks after the move were a real honeymoon with myself. I dove headfirst into my new life. I worked 16 hours a day, fueled by caffeine and ambition. On the weekends, I explored my new freedom. I bought designer clothes without even glancing at the price tag. I dined at Michelin-starred restaurants. I went out with my colleagues, powerful and interesting people who spoke my language. I felt liberated, powerful, invincible. And during all this time, I waited for his call. I was sure it was just a matter of time. In my mind, Gabriel was in our old apartment, alone, surrounded by my memories. Realizing the terrible mistake it had been to let me go so easily. I imagined his sleepless nights, his regret growing with each passing day. I mentally prepared myself for the moment his name would appear on my phone. I'd have to be strong, remind him the decision was made. But maybe, just maybe, if he begged enough, I might consider giving him a second chance, on my terms. But the call never came. The days turned into weeks. There were no text messages, no emails, no attempts to contact me through mutual friends. Nothing. Absolute silence. At first, I interpreted it as pride. He was too hurt to admit his mistake. But as time went on, a small, annoying seed of doubt began to sprout in my mind. Was it possible he wasn't suffering? Was it possible my absence hadn't left the crater in his life that I had assumed? The first crack in my new, shiny armor appeared a month ago. A mutual friend, completely unaware of the bomb she was about to drop, posted a photo on social media. It was from a hiking trail. In the picture, there was a group of people smiling, and in the center was Gabriel. He looked nothing like the man I remembered. He'd lost some weight. His face was tanned, and he looked radiant. He was wearing sportswear and smiling at the camera with a genuine, carefree joy. I started to watch him. Not obsessively, but with a persistent curiosity. I created an anonymous profile so I could see his posts without him knowing, and what I saw baffled me. His life, instead of having stopped, seemed to have flourished. He had joined a running club, posting photos of his race times, participation medals from 10K races. He'd started going to the gym. The photos that used to be of his history books were now of mountain landscapes and healthy meals that he prepared himself. 2 weeks ago, I saw him in person. It was a coincidence. I was leaving a meeting at a cafe downtown, and he ran past on the opposite sidewalk, headphones in full sportswear. He didn't see me. He was focused, with an expression of pure determination on his face. He looked fit, strong. It was a version of Gabriel that I didn't know, a version that had never existed during our marriage. And for the first time, I felt something that wasn't power or liberation. It was a pang of something like envy. Last night was the final straw. Another photo, this time from a friend of his. They were at a bar, celebrating something. Gabriel was in the center of the group, laughing out loud. And next to him was a woman. They weren't doing anything compromising, but she was touching his arm and looking at him with obvious admiration. And he wasn't pulling away. He looked comfortable, happy, surrounded by people. Meanwhile, I was alone in my luxury loft, eating a takeout salad, checking work emails at 10 p.m. It's been 3 months. 3 months since I made the most logical and powerful decision of my life. 3 months since I freed myself from a marriage that I believed was holding me back. And tonight, sitting here in this huge, silent apartment that is a monument to my success, I feel more alone than ever. The initial euphoria has faded, leaving a void that money and power cannot fill. I thought the divorce was the end of one chapter and the beginning of a better one. But now it seems that the only one who has started a better chapter is him. Where are the pleading calls? Where are the messages of regret? Where is the devastated man who can't live without me? He doesn't exist. He's been replaced by a fit, happy, and social stranger who seems to have completely forgotten our 8 years together. It's as if I had never existed, as if our marriage had been a simple, unimportant prologue in the book of his life. And the worst part, he didn't care about me either. It was so easy for him to erase me and move on. I was the one who had the courage to make the difficult decision. I was the one who freed him from a relationship that was no longer working. He should be grateful to me. Instead, he has punished me with his silence, with his happiness. It's a slap in the face. Every photo of him smiling is a dagger in my heart. Every kilometer he runs is as if he is running further and further away from me. The truth is, I miss him. I miss his calm, his kindness, the way he made me tea at night. I thought I didn't need him anymore, but now I realize that what I needed wasn't his money, but him. But I've built such a high wall with my success and my pride that I don't know how to tear it down. And he seems so happy in his new world that he doesn't even look towards my side of the wall. I made a decision based on logic, but my heart has been left behind. And the worst part of all is that it seems he's never looked back. People started calling me out. You treated your husband like an employee you fire because his performance is no longer necessary, one person pointed out. And then you're surprised he doesn't beg you to rehire him? You left him in the coldest, most calculating way possible, and you expected an emotional, passionate reaction? His happiness isn't a punishment for you. It's his reward for getting rid of someone who saw him as an accessory. My initial response? Defensive, of course. I didn't see him as an accessory. I saw him as my partner. But the dynamic of the partnership changed, and it needed to be restructured. His refusal to fight for that restructuring was what ended everything. His current happiness is just a facade to hide how hurt he is. Another comment cut deeper. He has punished me with his happiness. That's one of the most self-centered phrases I have ever read. His life doesn't revolve around you. His happiness isn't a strategy to hurt you. He is simply living his life and finding happiness after you broke his heart. You should be happy for him if you ever truly cared about him. Of course I cared. I argued. That's why this hurts so much. But nobody recovers from an 8-year divorce in 3 months and becomes a happy athlete. It's an act, and it's a cruel act. Someone else offered this. It seems your liberation was not from him, but from the part of you that loved him. You left him because your ego, inflated by your new status, told you that you could aspire to something better. And now that you realize that something better is lonely and empty, you want him to come rescue you from the decision you yourself made. I don't want him to rescue me. I insisted. I want him to show a little decency and acknowledge the pain we both should be feeling. His apparent lack of pain is what's so insulting. It invalidates our entire history together. The silence and the photos on social media were driving me crazy. I needed answers. So, I decided to do something I probably shouldn't have done, but the uncertainty was unbearable. I called his sister, Laura, with whom I'd always had a good relationship. I used the excuse of asking about their mother. After a few minutes of small talk, I couldn't hold back anymore. I asked her about Gabriel. I told her I'd seen him in photos and that he seemed to be doing very well. Laura's response was polite, but with a steel edge. She told me, yes, he's doing incredibly well. The divorce was the best thing that has ever happened to him. I was in shock. I asked her what she meant, and then Laura told me everything. She said that for the last 2 years of our marriage, Gabriel had lived in a constant state of anxiety, feeling that he was never enough for me. That my ambition, which he initially admired, had become a crushing pressure. She said he felt as if he were constantly failing me, that my happiness depended on achievements he could never give me. Laura told me that when I asked for the divorce, he didn't fight because he felt a strange sense of relief. She said he was devastated to lose the woman he loved, but at the same time, he felt freed from the burden of trying to live up to me. He started running and playing sports not to run away from me, but to channel all the negative energy and stress he had accumulated over the years. And in doing so, he rediscovered himself. She told me that Gabriel doesn't hate me, but that he sees me as a closed chapter in his life that taught him a lot about what he doesn't want in a partner. She ended the conversation with, "He is happy now, Sophia. Please let him be happy." I hung up the phone feeling as if I had been hollowed out. My whole narrative, my whole story of an abandoned and suffering husband, was a lie. The person who was suffering in the relationship, apparently, was him. "Wow, the truth hurts, doesn't it?" someone commented online. His sister made it crystal clear to you. He is not punishing you with his happiness. His happiness is the direct result of having gotten away from you. You were a source of stress and anxiety for him for years. You are the villain of his story, not the heroine he lost. I tried to argue back. I don't think I'm a villain. I was also under incredible pressure at work. If he felt that way, why did he never tell me? Communication is a two-way street. His silence was also part of the problem. He didn't fight because he felt a strange sense of relief. Another person echoed Laura's words. This sentence should be a lesson for you. You did him a favor. You gave him the way out that he didn't dare to take. And instead of crawling back, he has taken the opportunity to build a life that he truly enjoys. It's a success story. It's just not yours, Dut. I don't know if it's a success story. I typed, feeling the sting. It seems more like an escape. Instead of facing the problems in our relationship, he simply ran away, and now they call it success. I don't understand it. Please let him be happy, another comment advised. His sister's advice is the best you could receive. Close your anonymous profiles. Stop stalking him, and focus on your own life. Maybe if you take some time for introspection, you can understand why your success feels so empty. I'm not stalking him, I retorted, though the word felt like a physical blow. I was simply worried, and my success does not feel empty. My life feels empty without him. There is a difference. I guess I needed to see it with my own eyes. Last night, after the call with Laura, I did something stupid. I drove to our old neighborhood. I parked at the end of the street where he couldn't see my car. I waited. I felt like a private detective in my own ruined life. After an hour, the living room light came on. I could see his silhouette through the window, and then the front door opened. Gabriel came out. He wasn't dressed for running. He was wearing a nice shirt and jeans. He looked relaxed. Behind him came the woman from the bar photo. She said something to him, and he laughed. A genuine laugh that I could faintly hear from my car. She closed the door with her own key. They said goodbye with a kiss. It wasn't a passionate kiss, but a tender, familiar one. The kind of kiss you give someone with whom you have a real connection. She left in her car, and he went back into the apartment. Our apartment. And there it was. The irrefutable proof. It wasn't a facade. It wasn't an act. It was real. He was moving on. He had someone new, someone who had a key to his home. And I was sitting in the dark in an expensive car alone. The irony was so crushing that it almost suffocated me. I got everything I thought I wanted. The power, the money, the independence. And in doing so, I lost the only thing that really mattered. I drove back to my empty loft. For the first time in 3 months, I cried. I didn't cry for my wounded pride or for the injustice. I cried for him. I cried for the good man I let go because my ego wouldn't let me see clearly. I cried for the happiness I foolishly threw away. There's no great revelation here, no plan to get him back. It's already too late. There is only this cold, hard truth. I lost him. And I realize, with a painful clarity, that he doesn't need to beg me to come back. It is I who, in silence, will forever beg a ghost that will never return. This is the saddest and most honest update you could have written, a compassionate person wrote. It is brutal, but it is real. Sometimes the consequences of our actions are irrevocable. I hope that this pain is the beginning of a true introspection for you. I wish you luck. Finally, self-awareness, another said. It's a shame it had to come to this. Your story is a cautionary tale for all those who confuse professional success with personal happiness. They are not the same thing. I'm happy for Gabriel. He has found peace, and I sincerely hope that you find it too one day. It is I who in silence will forever beg a ghost that will never return. Another person highlighted my own words. What a powerful and desolate sentence. You have hit rock bottom, and sometimes that is necessary to start climbing up. There is nothing we can say to ease your pain, but at least now you see the truth. That is the first step. I guess so. All I know is the silence is deafening. Have you ever made a decision you thought was completely logical, only to have your heart tell you a different story down the road? What did you do? I really want to hear from you.